All right, guys, welcome to Real Estate Uncensored. This is Valentine's Day of 2024. Now, if you guys are watching me right now, I got my hat sideways, and there's a reason why, but I'm going to turn it front really quickly. We're going to talk about some really interesting stuff today. We're going to talk about love, because love is in the air. I mean, everybody on Valentine's Day, where they're buying flowers, chocolates, candies, dinners, trying to be romantic for the first time in the entire year. Congratulations, gentlemen. You might want to stick your game up. But we're going to talk about love, how to buy and sell and invest with loved ones. Now, Alyssa's going to go deep on this with us because this is something that's actually very, very incredibly interesting. She brought the concept to me, and I was like, wait, you can do this? And she's like, oh, we can definitely do this. And I have programs for that. But we're going to get into that into the show. But before that, Miss Alyssa Glutz, Miss Color My Credit, how are you, my dear, beautiful friend?
I'm only bringing my sweet dog
Who just bit you
me into the mix because it's his birthday. It's his birthday today.
We can't even.
This is Pepe Le Pew, and he likes to kiss. He tries to kiss me, but he just tried to bite me, so I don't like him anymore.
Pepe Le Pew, the puck off. But the funny thing is that we couldn't even script that if we tried. That was epically awesome on timing. Thank you, Pepe Le Pew. So, Alyssa,
I also learned this, Greg. I got to give you this one more thing. I learned this. Uva Ustavamanya Vaya. That's Finland for Happy Valentine's Day. It means Happy Friends Day. So it's not even really supposed to be about love. It's supposed to be about friends. So Uva Ustavamanya Vaya.
So all of our Finnish friends, we just got taught something very interesting about your culture. So we truly appreciate you guys on this one. Alyssa, I want to talk a little bit about buying with friends, Valentine's Day, the whole humanity coming together. How do we become more of a family unit, not so divided? Right now, we're very divided on multiple different aspects, both, culturally, economically, geographically, gender. You pick it, we're divided.
Name it.
Right?
Yeah, every day.
And we are more in common than we do divided.
Right.
So let's talk about buying property, because a lot of folks that we're hitting an economic time frame where it's harder to buy everything. Eggs are expensive, milk's expensive, gas is expensive, fucking haircuts are expensive. How do we buy properties with a loved one? How do we do this? How can we get invested and reinvested into our future financially, but then share it with someone that you truly love? By the way, guys, she's wearing a shirt that says love on it, which is awesome sauce.
Love. I know. And I have to tell you my cute Valentine's story just a little bit later. I will tell you it. It turned out so cute. So yeah, what's interesting is, and I was talking about this about a year ago, I did a kind of funny video about bringing back Laverne and Shirley and Three's Company and, those living situations, the Golden Girls, we have to take maybe some inspiration from all that, because yes, housing is not it's expensive. Okay. And so you have to kind of decide if you're going to stay in one of the bigger cities like Phoenix, like California, and you really want to be there. What's the thoughts of you purchasing with a family member, with somebody else? And that's all allowed. It seems weird because you always think of the traditional way of, guy and a girl meet, or girl and a girl meet, whatever the case, but they meet, they decide they want to buy a house together, but it doesn't have to be that way. So you can buy a home with your family member. You can buy a house, that's the only one that's going to kind of have some major restrictions is like VA. A lot of people don't realize that if you want to have like your fiance on the loan, you guys getting married, you guys, I actually had one like years ago where I was like, okay, so here's the situation. I can get you approved for this VA loan, but we can't use your fiance's income because you guys aren't married. And he was like, came back on Monday and said, guess what?
Here's a marriage license.
I'm like, all righty. It was going to happen anyway. So they ran to the courthouse, and now, now we're buying a house. So you don't need to have that in other situations. You could be buying, with your fiance. It's just to use the VA benefits and not have to come up with the down payment. You can buy with a veteran. It's just that you guys are going to have to come up with a down payment.
So here's a question I want to pose to you very quickly before we get into the meat and potatoes of this conversation. When it comes to buying with a friend, a family member, a best friend, so on and so forth, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to talk about. And guys, make sure you stay till the end of this because Alyssa's going to give a quick checklist of exactly what to look for at the very end, which I have found very helpful from my clients. And when it comes, I mean, okay. So I have moved in with my girlfriend and I have like officially collided homes, right?
Yes.
But like I'm selling
We're
mine, she bought hers,
cohabitating
everything
with
goes in.
hell. Yes. Okay.
There has to be some sort of a conversation prior to buying with a friend or family member, best friend, something like that, because shit gets weird when dollars and cents get involved, like real fucking weird. Like I had a
Yeah.
conversation with my girlfriend about this. I said, look, I'm going to invest X amount of six figures into this property. I want X back. And she's like, look, motherfucker, you're out of your goddamn mind. Like this
Yeah.
shit ain't fucking happening.
Now,
And I'm
slow
like,
down a second. She bought the property how long before you guys started dating?
oh no, we've been dating for 5 years before she bought the property. This is the third property. So I helped her buy this property. So
Okay.
but she was living at my house prior to, right, before she bought this because we had nowhere to go. And there's lots of other nuances in there. But the thing is that we had a conversation about it, and I did not like the outcome of that conversation because I'm like, "Fuck you, bitch! Like you're stealing my money." And
Yeah.
she's like, "You're a moron. Here's how it works."
Yeah.
And so she wrote it down, and it made logical sense.
Yeah.
And I guess the question I'm coming back to you on is this: is like a lot of folks go into everything with the rosy colors, rainbows in their eyes, just like everything's gonna be unicorns and sherbet for the rest of our lives. Shit gets weird. You get in a fight, something takes place, whatever happens. Now, where do you stand? There's no written agreement, there's no marriage license, there's nothing to sustain capital that you had put into the property. It's a he said, she said, he said, he said, she said, whatever version your life is, don't care. But here's the thing. How do you avoid that? And what can you do to prevent that? I guess is a double way of asking that.
I mean, you have to be fully present when you're signing these like documents or when you're agreeing to sign on with somebody. You know, it really, you have to have had the conversations of what's going to happen. I had maybe about a year ago, a couple that were breaking up that I helped them when they were just boyfriend and girlfriend buying their house. Well, then a year later, you know, he didn't want to be in a relationship with her anymore. And so he was able to not have to refi, to just pay her out what she put in. And she quit claimed over the property and, you know, kind of walked away. Now she was still obligated on the loan, but not on, she didn't own the house anymore. And so he died 6 months later.
What?
Yeah. And so it was like at that moment, it was like, wait a second. He's on the loan.
A dead man's on the loan?
He's on the loan with her.
What? Okay, so
he
here's a
doesn't
question.
own the property anymore, quit claimed it, but she's obligated on the mortgage now and he's gone.
Right, but what happens in that? I don't know the answer to this question. I'm legitimately interested.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
Hypothetically, you and I, we're in a relationship, right? We buy a house together. Again, knock on wood. We're like, this is roses and gravy. And then all of a sudden, bam, I hit the fucking bucket and I'm dead. But how does that affect the loan?
Yeah. So what happens is it becomes her responsibility.
Oh, so everything shifts directly over to her.
It shifts over to her. Now, what happens is when he dies, if he was a 29 years old. He didn't have a will, a trust, nothing, you know, really, you know, but what they're going to do.
Wait, he died at 29 years old?
Had a heart attack. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know it was a chain of events, but now luckily the ex-girlfriend and the parents still talked quite a bit. And so they took on basically ownership of the property. They moved somebody in, you know, and I think that lasted for about 6 months until they sold the property, got rid of it. And then she was not obligated anymore. But what would you do in a situation where maybe the house is upside down? This type of stuff happens all the time. When I see the divorced couples that, you know, in the divorce decree, it's very clear that it says that the husband or the wife, you know, gets the house. Okay. But they don't state usually that they have to refinance to get that person off the loan. So they close like normal and a year goes by and let's just say it's the wife. The wife thinks the husband is responsible for the mortgage, is responsible for the car and the credit card that she's a joint person on. They couldn't pay it off at the time of the divorce, but it's fine. I trust him. Well, every month, it's still part of her credit. And then when he suddenly loses his job a year later, can't live without her anymore, he
Mhm.
starts not making the mortgage payments and it starts hitting her credit. Her credit is the one that gets hit. So she gets mad and calls and says, this isn't right. It's his responsibility. The only thing you can do at that point is take him back to court for being in contempt of court of being obligated on something he said he was going to pay. But I just see so many times where divorce attorneys don't point out that, like, let's make this really, really clear and make sure that this isn't going to be something that impacts you. I know in my divorce, we had to kind of pay everything to zero and wipe each other out of being obligated on anything that we were taking on. So that kind of a thing, making sure that if you are going to be using like alimony as part of your income. I have a lady right now who's like relying 100% on this alimony as her income for qualifying. The divorce attorney got it for 3 years. Okay. But what the loan says is that if order for me to use that alimony from the day you close on the house, I have to prove that you're going to receive it for 3 years from that date. Now the divorce had just happened.
Interesting.
So she was 6 months too early. If the attorney would have just thrown in 4 years, okay, we would have been fine. But at 3 years, there wasn't enough time to prove that it would continue. So she didn't have any income
Yeah, it's
for the house.
interesting. Jack and I have talked about this multiple times. If anything would ever happen to her,
Hmm.
everything goes to her sister in a living trust, right?
Right.
Everything. And I don't care. It's her money, her family, her
Right.
choice. I mean,
You guys
that's the
don't
choice.
join to everything. Right.
And so that's an understanding that she and I have made.
Right.
And people are like, "Well, don't you want interest in the house?" I'm like, "No, it's not mine. I mean, she bought it. I mean, I want interest in my house that I own. That
But
because
you keep it
I
separate
bought it.
completely. Yeah.
And but with that, I guess it goes back to this. It goes back to an understanding in regards to the situation that your relationship is in, friend, family, business partner, fill in the gap.
Right.
Jackie and I have made a very clear understanding on this, and I'm fine with that decision because in the future we'll buy more properties together.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand, but
Hmm.
that is reality.
Right.
Choose your reality.
Hmm.
What do you want to look like? I mean, could you be with listen, let's hypothetically, let's say that you're with a guy and he bought a house, he passes, you didn't know it was in a living trust. It goes back to an ex-spouse, it goes back to a kid, goes back to a parent, goes
Yeah.
back to the cat foundation of Arizona,
Yeah.
whatever it is. How would that make you feel if you didn't have that conversation?
I would be mad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. It's all different. It depends on the age you ask, because I can clearly remember when I got married at 25 that I just couldn't understand how people didn't join their money together, because I didn't have any, by the way. But I was like, why wouldn't you put your money together? Like, if you guys aren't all in, then why are you getting married? Like, shouldn't it be an all in? But now, as a 46-year-old who doesn't even want to get married because of that, again, because of that dynamic, the money part of it, but
Mhm.
also I would feel differently. I would say you bring in what you have and I bring in what I have, and we have things that we do together. But it would be it's just different as you get older, and I think as you acquire more, if you've been through more stuff, you don't want to lose stuff. Yeah.
Well, when life hits you in the face with a baseball bat with nails in it,
Yeah.
sometimes shit fucking hurts,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And you're like, "Oh, man, I'm stunned. I don't really know what the frick to do right now."
Yeah.
But you learn from being hit in the face with a baseball bat with nails in it, and you're like, "Well, not taking a left, going right on this one. Thank you very much." But people, when they buy properties, let's go through 3 different steps
Yeah.
really quickly. Let's walk through these steps. You walk me through these steps. There's
Okay.
probably not 3, there's probably more. But let's talk about buying property with a best friend. Let's
Yeah.
start
Best
with best
friend.
friend.
Yeah. So the first step is really both of you together having that time that you sit down together, right? First thing you both want to do is get a MyFICO account so that you both understand precisely what mortgage scores they're going to pull up. Not to be in competition with each other, because remember, it's the middle of those 3 mortgage scores. That's your score. And then the middle of the 3 mortgage scores is their score on MyFICO. And
Right.
so let's just say I had, that the middle score for me is a 658 and the middle score for my best friend is an 802. Okay. So right off the bat, you have to understand there is no 802 in the loan. Okay. It's 658. They go off the lower of the 2 borrowers on the loan. They're going to go the lower of your middle scores.
But couldn't you just quit claim on afterwards? So you go with, so let's say you and I are going to get married. We're gonna buy a
Right.
house, hypothetically, right? You have the 802. I have the 654.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Then why don't I just take myself off?
Right.
You do it, get the loan, get everything else, then you quit claim me on the deed
Okay.
versus the loan. So there's ownership status, there's stake in the game.
But you have
and you move
no
forward from there.
credit. You have nothing coming up on your credit. Number 2, I wouldn't be able to use your income. So what if the 2 people that are buying the house together are buying it because they can't afford it on their own?
So that's another question. So then you create a joint account and you then season money into another a joint account, or is that not going to work? Am I completely off my rocker? No, or
Totally off your rockers. No, if
Okay,
you
off my
want
rockers.
to qualify, if you need to qualify, if you need this much income in order to qualify, and that income is only going to get there between me and you together, then we both have to be on the loan. So everybody who the income is needed has to be on the loan. They're going to take everybody's middle score. Whoever's got the lowest, that's the one score for the loan.
Okay, so then here's another scenario. So let's say in this scenario, I have the lower credit score, right?
Okay.
And let's say we make mutually the same amount of money. Let's say for round numbers for this scenario, $100,000 a piece, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay, we'll go on. We'll use my lower credit score because that's how the banks operate. Why don't we just buy down the interest then?
Well, you can. I mean, but that's the thing is like, that's why, you know me. So if you were my boyfriend and you had a 658 and I had the 750 and we were going to buy a house together
Mhm.
and I saw that, I would not be calling a lender yet. I would be calling Alyssa at Color My Credit and saying, hey, we need a couples consultation so that I can get my boyfriend's score up in 30 days so that we can move forward together.
Okay,
So that's the solution, right?
And that's the point of this conversation is the fact that a lot of folks don't know they can have a consultation
Mhm.
and understand how to bring credit scores up, how to work together as a unit, as a team,
Right.
because you are a team at this point. Like you are walking side by side, shoulder to shoulder. You're equally yoked, or trying to get equally yoked, as the Bible would say.
It's like you're having a baby together. I mean, really, it's like you're having a baby.
It is having a baby.
Mhm.
And I have a funny story about that, not in regards to babies, but it's a funny story about that off air. And by the way, no, I am not having children, people. It is just purely business talk.
No babies. Yeah.
So keep going a little bit deeper on this, and then let's step into our next scenario with our like a family.
Yeah, let me
member.
finish that out. So MyFICO, you guys are sitting together. You guys know where your scores are. Okay, you have that realistic conversation with, could we do better, or are we good just where we're at and we should go ahead and meet with a mortgage lender? The next 2 steps are going to be looking at your income and then assets. So altogether for the pre-approval, they're going to look at credit, income, assets, the CIA. Okay. So the income piece of it, you guys are going to gather your last couple years of tax returns, your last couple pay stubs. It's going to open up some conversations because at that point, if you don't know this already, your other person could say, oh, shoot, I'm behind on my taxes. I don't really file that much income because I'm self-employed and I write it all off. Whatever the conversation is, like the getting the documents together is going to be an important piece. So you have the income together and then the assets. Like, what are you guys going to use for your down payment? Okay. Or if you're going to get a gift from family members, from somebody, it's important to have that conversation up front just so that the lender can walk you through how you're going to document that the proper way. You don't want to just stick a bunch of cash in your bank account. But once you guys have gone through those 3 steps and you've met with a lender and you get a good idea, okay, this is how much we could buy together. And you should always ask the lender, could he buy it on his own? Could she buy it on her own? Is there any benefit for that? Would it be better for us to do that? And maybe I know you won't be able to be added to the deed unless you're a spouse. If you're not going to be on the loan, if you're not going to be on the loan and you're in a community property state, they're going to allow you to have like a non-borrowing spouse on the deed. Okay. But not
But,
in a boyfriend girlfriend situation.
but why
Got to
don't
get
you just
married.
buy it in LLC then?
Well, because you can close in an LLC with some banks, but that doesn't mean that you're not both personally obligated on the house. Unless you have a business that's set up as an LLC that can get like basically commercial financing. That's the only way to really buy it with your business, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Otherwise,
that makes sense.
you can use your business income for qualifying, but they're still using your personal, your social, your birthday, all your information.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me if I work for, let's pick a really big company. I work for Oracle or Facebook or Apple or some
Yeah.
astronomically large company, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a senior product director at Apple,
Mhm.
and be like, well, sir, you make X amount of money, but I'm like, but my company makes $1 trillion. Can I get the loan?
You don't own that company though.
But it's my company that I work at.
Yeah, just the company. But if you have to have a little bit more ownership in that business in order to basically, and at that point, it really depends on what you're pushing through onto taxes, what you
So,
really are showing.
so what kind of percentage would you need to own in a company to claim it as yours? I mean, if
Like
I own stock in
25% is what
Apple,
we're looking for, to see that you have at least 25% ownership in
oh
order to
shit, okay.
use, basically a quarter of the profits or whatever the case.
Okay, because I'm like, if I buy a lot of stock, then I can get like maybe a fraction of 1.1%. So I own an ownership stake in the company, but I don't own an ownership stake in the company. So
Yeah,
we're really talking about entrepreneurs, soulpreneurs, folks that have the donut shop around the corner, the
right,
people that have the house cleaning company, folks who are actually working in your community. If
right.
they own 25% or more, then they can use that income. So let's say you personally make, again, $100,000, but the
Mhm.
company makes $500,000.
Right. What portion gets passed on to you? What do you show on taxes? Right.
Right. And you can use this for any type of loan purchase. So it could be for buying with a best friend, sister, parent, business partner, as long as there's an asset attached on the backside that has the income that can prove that you can make these payments and pay this loan back. Am I hearing this correctly at all? Or
Pretty much. I mean, in a roundabout way, yes.
so that's a no.
And it might
Okay.
be something. It's an underwriter answer right there. Maybe no, maybe not, maybe no. Now let me ask you this: how many times have you had a roommate like in life? Did you have roommates in college?
Oh yeah, I had
Um,
roommates in college, after college. I had roommates when I was just getting started in the business in
it's your experience.
2001.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I had tons of them. And
yeah.
I got some horror stories about that, by the way.
Well, I know it's just so funny. I was thinking my very first time I moved out of my house and moved to ASU, my friend Kim from high school and I decided we were going to live together. And
Mhm.
so the first day we're at the dorm and we're getting everything put into the dorm. And then we go over to sign up for classes. And the girl at the administration looked at us and said, "You guys are taking every single class together?" And we looked at each other and went, "Yeah." And they went, "You guys aren't living together, right?" And we were like, "Yeah, we are, why is that bad?" They were like, "You guys, you're not gonna make it one semester. You're not gonna make it, right?" But we did. We made it 1 year, and we almost killed each other at the end, and then she's a very good friend of mine today, but man, that was a bad decision to just do everything. Every single class we'd walk out of, the teacher would be like, "Why don't you talk to your roommate about helping you a little bit in this subject?" And it would be like, "Her? Help me. I'm smarter than her." It would just be this whole
And that's the crazy thing about that. That's the whole thing I was concerned about when we talk about buying with best friends, because you're besties until you're not, right?
right.
And then
Right,
all
you
of a
gotta have
sudden,
some
like
history
I
together.
I have
Yeah,
some friends of mine that I just straight don't talk to anymore because shit went so fucking sideways that
yeah,
I was just like, nope, I can't do this.
and no
I
one's
can't I
even
can't
puts
do
any
this.
effort in anymore. It's just like, bye-bye.
But then, I have a client of mine I fired her, she fired me simultaneously.
Mhm,
I openly call her hashtag worst client ever.
mhm.
And she's been one of my biggest referral sources because there was honesty and transparency. And we also got a little time away from each other because damn,
That
that was
helps.
weird.
Yeah. you can kind of forget about a lot of that stuff. But I do think that the most important thing to remember, and people know this already, but take a step back, even one of my best girls from college called me the other day and said, "Oh my gosh, this is bad, bad." I'm like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "My son wants to buy a house with his best friend and his best friend's girlfriend. The three
Oh
of them
no.
together." I'm like, "Oh no." And
No.
she's like, "How are they even doing this? How are they even?" I'm like, You can do this." And she goes, I'm like, "But here's the thing. Have they lived together for like the last year? Or like what's that look like?" She goes, "No, no, no. No, they're all moving from parents into this."
No.
I go, "Oh god, that's horrible."
No. I
Just
actually have a
no.
friend. I have a
Yeah.
friend of mine. Yeah, very similar situation. He had a girl that he was in love with, right? And we were roommates. And he's like, "Dude, she's moving in." And I'm like,
Mm,
okay.
mm,
And so she
mm.
moved in. It was great. Not a problem. No, not a problem at all. Whatever, minor squabbles here and there. But then we started talking about like opening a business together and
Mm.
doing this and that together. And I'm like, I got to stop talking about this because if those two break up, the business is destroyed. And I got to carry the burden. So that's a very interesting
Yeah.
thought pattern to really consider because again, hypothetical scenario, you and I are in a relationship. We have your best girlfriend moves in with us, and we're
Right.
like, yay, it's
Right.
the odd couple. All right, cool. And then all of a sudden, it's like, fuck you, bitch, fuck you, asshole,
Yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. And then it just goes south super fast. So, those are some thoughts that you should really take in consideration if you're going to buy with the best friend. Let's talk about, let's switch over a little bit here quickly.
Okay.
What's our next scenario? Who would you buy a property? Who is another person you could buy a property with?
Family, I would say I've had a few people lately that haven't been able, as we know, some of the Crockett sisters, they couldn't buy a property together, but they thought, but could we get together and look for a duplex? Could we get together and look for a property that has an ADU? And I'm seeing a lot more people that are thinking that are selling and giving up their 2 and 3% interest rate because it makes a lot more sense for them to buy a bigger property with mother-in-law suite outside, so that their mother, who they're going to have, or mother or father that's going to have to go to assisted living, and they've started to look at what that's going to cost them,
That's so much
um,
money.
which it's crazy. So even just doing, we kind of thought, we're just handling our kids and us as far as like planning life. But next thing you know, you're going to take care of your parents, right? So what are you going to do? Are you going to pay this house, pay for a nurse to run over there, spend the time driving back and forth to go check on mom every day and make sure she's not hurt, check on dad every day? Or are you going to just move them into the backyard? You know what I mean? Are you going
Mhm.
to just buy either one of those, not Gemini, but those type of properties? It's on the tip of my tongue, where they have this house and this house, but it's one house, but it's two separate kind of units. And that's how you
So like
guys
a
live.
so like a granny unit,
Right.
ADU slash whatever you want to call it. And you
Put
live
an
in the other
apartment
one.
over the garage, whatever it is.
But in Arizona, you guys just talked about how now in Arizona you can section off a chunk of your property, put an ADU unit on it when it's when it's legal and all that stuff. Drop that
It's
on
very
there.
little permits needed. It's not much. It's a very simple process for you to be able to take your one unit house, add another unit.
Right. So let's say, we can do that in California too. That was a
Yeah.
Assembly Bill 1033 here in
Yeah.
California.
You can sell
Um,
yours, right? Can't you even sell your ADU?
yeah, you can sell a completely different APN.
Yeah.
And so here's the factor. I told my parents about this because they're going to be selling their large property here in Alamo, and they already have their other ranch and so on and so forth. And I
Mhm.
said, guys, you could put an ADU because they have a couple of other structures on their property. I'm like, guys, you could section that off, turn it into ADU, and then sell two different units, make two different profits.
Mhm.
And my mom just looked at me like I was a retard, and she's like, but Alamo prides itself on being half acre to a third acre lots. Why would I want to cut that down? And I'm like, ooh. So what do you think that's going to do to property values in a luxury or mid luxury or lower income areas if you have now two units, you can separate them. So let's say in the US you have a property for $500,000, right?
Mhm.
You section off an ADU, you sell it for $100,000. Now your property is worth $400,000, but you still have a $500,000 mortgage on that $400,000 valued home, but you
Mhm.
have a $100,000 valuation on the other one, but you don't own it anymore.
Right.
So, did you just shoot yourself in the foot?
Right. No, and possibly, it's one of those things where I've seen a couple people, a couple loan officers in this last couple years that have like business has gone down quite a bit. They don't have much business. They're not going to lose their house. It's at 3 or 4%. So what they've done is not the thought of I'm going to go and create an ADU and put somebody in my backyard and see how that goes. No, they go out and buy like a tiny home on Home Depot or whatever the case, get it delivered right to the
Mhm.
backyard, and they live in it. They
And they
realize
rent out the
they
front.
don't need much space, and so they rent out their big house, and they say, "This is the means to an end. I'm gonna go out here for a while, and I'm gonna live in the backyard of my house," which isn't a bad idea. I mean, you're kinda just living on, and you could do that, but there's also this thing out there right now, kind of a side note, through Frontier, and it's called something Pass. I can't think of the name of it, but it's $1,500. What you get is to fly uh, unlimited amounts every month. You can fly anywhere you want on Frontier, and then in every city they have like basically 2 to 3 bedroom places that you can stay in for up to a week at a time. So you pay 1,500 and you basically live on the road.
Yeah, it says,
What's it
let's
called? The
see
Pass,
here.
Frontier Pass?
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now, trying to find it. Online store. I'll figure it out here in a couple of seconds. But that's an interesting thing for
That's interesting.
$1,500 a year. I mean, a month or a year? A month.
It's 1,500 a month, and
Okay,
so
that's
that
not,
covers all of your, sleeping every night and your plane tickets wherever you wanna
dude.
go.
I'm sorry. That sounds absolutely freaking amazing. I mean,
Amazing. Yeah,
my condo payment is $2,500 a month,
yeah.
so I could save $1,000. I can fly anywhere I want. I can stay at these different, locations. Obviously, you pay for utilities
You're
and
gonna be a
food and
gypsy, right.
typical stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, Uber rides because you're not going to have a car at that point.
I could see guys doing this more. I don't mean to be that way, but I don't know because I just,
That would be
safety.
fun as hell.
I know doing it with somebody,
No, doing it by yourself because
either
then you
way.
get to go meet people and go see friends and
It
develop
really
relationships. And you could talk about business growth opportunities if you get this Frontier Pass. And now instead of buying something, I know we pivoted in this conversation in
That's
regards
okay.
to different opportunities. But we're all talking about different lifestyle options, is kind of basically the
It
concept of the
works
show.
though, Greg, because even like let's
It
say that
does.
you are living with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or you're living with your sister or brother, and you know what? You work remote and you're sick of them, okay? Then you don't
Bail.
need to necessarily sell the house. Go on a frontier month, okay? Get out of that, go away,
Heck
leave
yeah.
them for 1 month, see if you can afford to do that. But I'm saying like at least gives you some options. Obviously, most of the time you can usually walk right in, and sell. If you guys put a little bit of money down, you guys should be able to turn around and sell if need be. But it really kind of depends on how well you bought at, what the price was that you bought. And sometimes you just have to look at other options.
Well,
If it
I
breaks
think
up like that.
life is full of options, and I think that's what we're talking about right now is the
Yeah.
option to either buy with a friend, family member, business partner, or moving back into the back unit and then take that Frontier Airlines,
Mhm.
$1,500 a month, unlimited air travel, unlimited stays, and you can travel around, bounce around like a future hobo instead of
Mhm.
taking the train car.
Mhm.
Now you're taking the airplane.
Yeah.
And let's say I'm in California, so let's say I'm like, yeah, screw this place, brah. I'm gonna go to see my one of my dear friends, Alyssa, in Arizona. Boom,
Mhm.
pop down for 2 nights. I'm like, okay, cool. Thanks for having me. I'm out.
Mhm.
On the plane again. I'm over to Florida. Then I'm up
Right.
to Miami, down to
Go visit
Miami. Then
another
I'm over
friend.
to Boston.
Yeah.
Then to Idaho. Just hopping and popping anywhere they go. That is honestly attractive.
It
I
sounds
mean,
like the backpacking trip you take after college, after high school,
yeah.
before college, where you go find yourself. But you're doing it here in the US. I think that could be a lot more parents could be into that. But I do think it's something that, I don't know if you noticed this week that Zillow added not that we like Zillow, but that they added another feature on there that you can not only look for homes that are for sale, you can look for rooms for rent. So on
Rent.
Zillow, you can do a search for a single room. And so that just is
Oh,
a sign
wow.
of the times to tell you if they're like advertising renting a single room in a house, about where we
Interesting.
are affordability wise. And could you do that? Could you live in someone's house at this age?
Nope.
I couldn't either, but
I
maybe I
couldn't do
could if
it.
I had the Frontier Pass where it wasn't that much. It was maybe $700 for me to rent the house plus my $1,500 pass, is kind of equivalent to what rent is in most places. So,
But you have versatility.
yeah,
And I want to bring it back to buying with friends and family,
yeah.
because I think versatility and I think opportunity are two things we really need to take a look at. Because the versatility is like, okay, I'm versatile because I don't have to put all the money down. The
Mhm,
opportunities, I have a potential return on my investment. Now, is
mhm,
it going to be diminished based upon the amount of people involved? Yes, but you all taking a percentage interest. So if it's
mhm,
three people, that's three, that's 33rd a person,
mhm.
and you guys are in 100% as a group. But maybe one person puts in 50, the other person puts in 20, the other person puts in the rest. Great. You get the returns on that.
Mhm.
So I guess it's a lifestyle choice.
Right.
I'm honestly excited about this Frontier thing. I think that is one of the coolest freaking things because that's an opportunity. You're
Right.
paying the cost for an opportunity.
And
Because
you see that. Yeah.
let's say you always talk about how single you are, right?
Mhm,
So let's say we take you back 20 years and you're
mhm,
26 years old.
mhm.
And this was a thing back when you were 26, if it
Yeah.
was, right? If I was 26 and single, I was single for I've been single for majority of my life. I just the way my life has always been.
Yeah.
I heard about this and I could do work
Couldn't do it.
remotely. There's not a chance in frog fart hell I would stay where I am because
No.
I could go live and see the world and the country at the same cost or a lower cost than paying a shitty apartment rent, in a city that I marginally like, but I
Right.
feel obligated to stay in based upon family or relationship bases, or I might call them biases.
Yeah.
And that's a unique way to look at life when you
You don't
have
have to sign up for this
options.
long thing too, not to cut you off, but you don't have to sign up for this year contract with it. You're month to month on this. So if you after a month are like, I saw all I want, I don't want to ever do that again, you're done. But it
No
gives you
kidding.
an idea of whether or not, I would be doing that before I moved to a new city. I would be spending a little time there renting, like checking out the place, making sure I like different weathers. It's kind of like dating somebody that you haven't gone on a road trip with. You don't know nothing,
Oh my
you don't
god,
know.
dude! When Jackie and I first started dating in 2018, um, we're talking like 3 months into this relationship, right? Like we're babies,
Yeah.
and we're having a lot of fun. We're doing our thing, and she had a plan to go to Japan. Not to make that rhyme, sorry. But she's like, "Hey," she woke up. We woke up one morning. She's like, "Hey, I want you to go to Japan with me." And I was like, "You're so cute, silly. I'll get some coffee for us." Okay.
Yeah.
And so 3 weeks later, she's like, "Look, dipshit, I'm being serious. I want you to go to Japan with me." And I was like, "What?" And I thought about it for a second because immediately I was like, "Nope, hard
Right.
stop, not
Right.
happening, way too soon," so on and so forth. And I screwed my head on. I'm like, "Hold on, you have a drop dead gorgeous girl who
Yeah.
wants to go travel the world with you,
Yeah.
and she's inviting you for the second time. Um, what is your problem?" So we ran the
Oh,
numbers,
yeah.
we looked at it, plenty of money, plenty of time. We worked it out. We went on the trip. All my friends told me this. They're like, "Dude, it's either going to go really good or
Or
really
really
bad."
bad. Yeah.
And I'm like, "I know. This is the litmus test.
This is like the
Is it
beginning of
going
it
to
all.
work? Is it not going to work?"
Right.
End of story. Obviously, it's worked out really well. We've been together 6+ years of this as of this recording, and we had a blast in Japan. We actually just talked about Osaka last night, talking about some of our funny stories that we have there.
But it must have been such a bonding experience. I noticed the couples that had some sort of big incident a trip or a sickness in my case, or something that happened like 2-3 months into the relationship where you guys had to get kind of together quick. You went through some sort of an emotional experience in one way or
Mhm.
another, and it sometimes is like the glue that starts you and really ends up kind of keeping you going together, you
It
know?
and it really is, and that's the whole idea behind, buying and selling with family members, friends, so on and so forth. I mean, is it gonna be perfect? Absolutely. Hard
Right.
stop, no.
Right.
Is it gonna be a learning experience? 1,000%. Is it gonna be something you do again? Well, it depends, right? But the
There's some
thing is
calculated risks you can take, though. There's some things you can do, just being
right.
smart, just thinking ahead of time. Now's the good time to talk about how you load a dishwasher, because every
Oh my
person I
god.
know says one person in the relationship, in the household, is amazing. They're like crazy the way that they architect that dishwasher. The other person couldn't find it if they're I mean, and I'm that. Yep. I'm like going, I'm the get the calls at work saying, "How do you load a dishwasher?" So it's always gonna be that. So you gotta understand that. Like, are you
Yeah.
somebody who likes to I love to vacuum. I will vacuum all day, every day, but I don't like to I don't really love running the garbage out. Okay, but I do it all now. But I'm saying it's good for you guys to conversate about what responsibilities you like to do, how you like to keep things. Is it going to kill you if he leaves his shoes underneath the couch every night instead of goes and puts them away? Is that going to kill you? Where other people that wouldn't. So you have to really think about when you're living with someone. Yeah.
It's so true. I am the world's worst dishwasher stacker ever. I get yelled at
Horrible.
every single day
What's
on
wrong
how
with
bad I
us?
am. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like playing Tetris either. So, you know what? It's
Nope.
in there, it's out
Nope.
of the sink. What is the problem?
Right.
And so, like, I like
Math
you're a
project.
vacuumer, I'm a vacuumer, and I love to mop. I know it's weird,
I
but
like to
here,
mop too. What
but
is
here,
it about us that are make us in sync on our household responsibilities?
so I've actually thought about this, and Jackie hates it because her job takes a different skill set, right?
Yeah.
And it's instantaneous gratification. Like she goes and does her job, she
Mhm.
gets a result, moves on to the next case,
Yep.
right? For us, we don't see gratification financially or business wise for 30, 60, 90 days based upon the deal. I
Mhm.
go mop the house, I see instant gratification
Mhm.
and I feel good about that. I'm
Yes.
I'm like the only guy that like, gets excited about getting a vacuum
I
because
know.
I'm like, that is a dirty area. Now it is a clean area. It took me 5 minutes.
I
And
never
so
knew that about you, Greg. See what we have in common? Geesh.
I know. And
Okay.
this is how when you buy and sell together, you understand the nuances and the idiosyncrasies of other humans. And once you see that, you're like, oh my God, you like to you suck at dishes, but you
Yeah.
like to vacuum. I'm great at dishes. I
Right.
hate to vacuum.
Right.
This is perfect.
It's gotta work. Who's gonna
Like,
pay the bill? Like, what account is it gonna come out of? How are we going to do that? Because the worst thing is when you're with somebody who, um, doesn't, uh, doesn't likes to avoid conflict whenever they can. So instead, they just resent you in their head, and you can feel it. There's nothing worse. There's nothing thicker, like in a house with somebody that is resenting something that you're doing, but they can't communicate that they don't like that. So I don't want to lose this though. I don't mean to switch topics, but as far as I don't want to lose this piece of it, because there's a lot of people I know at our age group that do have kids, they're thinking about their kids that are 16, 17, 18, getting ready to go into college. And we all know school is ridiculous, how much school is and everything, beyond the housing and the tuition and everything else. But something I've seen a lot of people do, I plan to do it with both my girls, is at 16, first starting the process of getting their credit started, getting them on an authorized, as an authorized user on a credit card of yours that you are religious about only having like a $20 balance on it every month so that they can build. You're going to freeze their credit after 6 months so that they're going to get a credit score, and then you need to freeze it so nobody can open up credit in their name. And then when they turn 18, they will be able to purchase a house at wherever they're going to college at. You become non-owner occupant co-borrower as the parent, they only
Yes.
need to have 3.5% down. So it's not like a typical rental property. You're putting 3.5% down for your kids. Okay. Now your kid owns part of this property, which means they're not having parties like they that you thought they were, that they would have if they could care less what happens really at
Oh,
the
they're
end of
not
the
gonna
day
mess
with it.
that house up. Nope.
No. And they're going to be able to recruit, 2 or 3 people to live with them that are going to pay the mortgage. And so by the time 4 years is up, you're done with college. Now you have an asset where you lived rent free for 4 years, right? And at that time you sell, you take your equity in that property, and now you have your first down payment for a house. Or you pay a portion to your parents back and say thank you and move on. But I'll tell you what, most parents, if they get out of it, at that point, and they have their kid who's solid, who's a homeowner, who has a little start in life, I think most of them would pay for that. You know what I'm saying? Just to
Well,
be able to have
I
that.
think they would as well, and that's one of the things that I mean, financial fiscal responsibility is something that is not talked about and not taught in schools at any level. I mean,
No.
my mom was the only one that taught me how to balance a checkbook. I didn't even know what the fuck a checkbook was.
Remember that
But you know
checkbook?
what? I got my first bank account. I put $60 in it, and I was the richest guy on earth. And it gave me this little book with this little accounting thing on
Ledger?
it. I felt super cool, right?
Mhm,
I was
mhm.
probably like 10, but
Right.
whatever. The difference is this: like physically smart individuals like yourself, like Grant Cardone, he's in front of like 3,000, 10,000 people or something like that. He'll call his daughter on the line a line and be like, "Hey, I want to buy a building at a 6 cap and I want to spend any more than $6 million. How much can I spend?"
And she just
And she's like, this number. And that
mhm.
ability is lost. And I think a lot of us need to teach ourselves and get taught by professionals such as yourself and myself how to buy and sell real estate
Mhm.
intelligently, because
Mhm.
you can buy it very unintelligently.
And
Um,
even if your child doesn't wanna have anything to do with real estate, like, it's not like I'm gonna force my kids to get their real estate license, although I
no,
am very much encouraging them that it's something that it's a great just thing to have, even if you save it on your own purchase, as long as you really understand the game and everything and how it works. But it is one of those things that it's a good skill to have. It's good to get them involved as soon as early as possible and really understand that their credit is all about them running this, little football team. Okay. Your team either wins or your team sucks. Okay. You want your team to win or suck. You got to manage this team of accounts that you're taking on. Don't take on too many, because you got to manage them
but
and
you
teach
also
them
need to
that way.
start the team. So
Right. Right. Start the
what,
team.
like you were talking about, like buying a twoplex, fourplex, single
Mhm.
family, something like that for your college child, so
Yeah.
they can understand how that works. What if we back that up to like you and your husband or wife, partner, significant other? You guys are like, okay, we plan on having 2.5 kids.
Mhm.
Perfect. I don't know where
Mhm.
the point 0.5 is coming in, but
Mhm.
then there's that.
Really
But
short. Yeah.
a very small person. But that's all jokes, by the way, people.
Yes.
But the thing is that if you go out there and you're like, okay, Alyssa, babe, we want to have 2 kids. We talked about this. We've kind of budgeted for this a little bit. And what if you take some of that budget and when you first get married, right? Because you're not going to have kids. Most people don't have kids right away, right?
Right.
They, 1, 2, 3 years of being a couple, traveling the world, having fun, growing together, blah blah blah. Once the kiddos hit the market, not the market, hit life.
Mhm.
And what if you started at the day one of marriage and you're like, oh, we're going to take $100 a month each and we're going to put it into an account. That is going to be our savings for our kiddos. Then you go talk to Alyssa, you figure out an option for loans, and then once your first kid is born, let's say her name is Stacy, and
Mhm.
then 2 years later, John's born,
Mhm.
right? But you have now, when they were born, you've already purchased a 2 unit or a 4 unit for them. You are making income from that, but that income goes into an account obviously pays off the debt and runs the property. All the proceeds goes into a college account.
Mhm.
Once they get into college, now it becomes their asset,
Right.
and they have to manage it because they've been learning since junior high how to run this thing, because this is their business. They're
Mhm.
running a business at this point.
Mhm.
Um, Now they can do whatever they want. They can either sell it for tuition, keep it for an asset,
Right.
refinance it and keep it, refinance and buy another one and build
Mhm.
a real estate portfolio. But there's so many opportunities out there that don't take a lot of time and effort, and things you're already doing. Like for myself, I have a thing that I buy on a consistent basis, and it's like 20, $30 a day. It's nothing big. It's just it's something I enjoy to eat, right?
Mhm.
And there's a sandwich place that has the most incredible sandwiches, $15 a sandwich.
Yeah.
What if I took those $15 a day, stuffed into an account, and ate something doesn't cost $15 a sandwich, and then started buying properties, or qualifying for loans, or teaching my kid, if I had a kid, how to be fiscally smart, because everything that I've seen with a lot of folks, everything's very transactional, not very
Right.
relational. And
Right.
so as soon as you learn how to just take simple shifts
Yeah.
and turn them into long-term assets and gains, so that you can go say, hey, Alyssa, you're my best friend in the world. You know what? Let's buy a house together. I have $35,000 in a nest egg I can
Mhm.
put down. This will be
Mhm.
my portion. This will be your portion. Let's do this together. And it doesn't have to be something that you have to be strapped on in
Right.
regards to like financially, mentally just screwed, because like, oh my God, how am I gonna come up with this $25,000? You're like,
Yeah.
I've been building since I was two. I mean,
Well, and it doesn't
and they're
even have
20.
to be from 2. I think about, like, gosh, whenever I break down $10,000 in 1 year, it's $27 a day. So when you think about
There you
yourself
go.
and you go, okay, so $27, is there something that I do spend on the daily that's about 27 bucks? Or even like if I always spend, you know, $200 on my phone bill every month, is there a way that I could get it down 25, $35? Like every little bit that you're not spending there, you take and you can put over into your milk jug or whatever whatever you're doing to put
Yeah.
over at home. But it is thinking that, and I know that putting these small little amounts on your credit cards, what happens at the end of the month when we do that kind of willy-nilly is that we look at the credit card balance and go, "No way." Like, "Wow, how did it get to 3,800?"
It's
Like,
it's
"What?"
so true. It
So
is
fast.
so
And
true.
it's the mini amount. So you've got to flip the script on that. And one of the best apps I love is this app called Digit. And when you set up Digit like one time, you link it to your account. And what it does is it reads your account activity to know how much is something you wouldn't miss. Okay, so at the end of each day, it
Ooh.
might take $1.40 out of your bank account today and move it over into your Digit account. Tomorrow, it might be $2.58. It kind of depends on your spending patterns. What I notice is it's different small incremental amounts that I wouldn't even miss. Okay. And at the end of every month, I look at it and I'm just like, every morning it texts you and says, this is what your bank account, is saying, what your balance is, by the way, just in case it's different from what you thought it was the night before. Or by the way, you were getting really low on your bank account. So we automatically for you moved money from your rainy day fund with us into your bank account to make sure you didn't get an overdraft.
But isn't Digit taking that money and then
Just
investing it
holding
at a
it.
higher rate?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, maybe they are, but I'm saying it's the service of them automatically taking this, and at any time you can go over and say, move my rainy day fund right back into my bank account. But for
No,
me, it's the
that is interesting.
automatic micro savings that I'm telling you, it changes your whole life when you start thinking of it that way. When it's not you trying to, how am I going to save $10,000 in a year? How am I ever going to pay this credit card off that's now up at $7,000 a year? Well, you're not going to pay it off all at once. What you have to do is set up a daily micro invest option. Okay. Like a daily automatic option that's out of sight, out of brain, that won't kill you, But that's why Digit or even Acorns is really good.
I would,
Acorns just moves your
I would say Acorn as well. Like you just move it right into an investment, stock investment.
you
Like
can do
so
that, and what they do is you can do roundups with Acorn, where it's like
exactly.
every time you run your card, it just rounds up to the nearest dollar. So that's even
Yeah.
smaller, usually
So if I spend $1.97, that extra 3 cents
3
goes
cents goes over.
right
Yep.
over there. But you'll never miss it. It's like
You won't.
literally losing change in the sofa, but it's secured. I like both of those options because I think that's very important for folks because again, I'm not a big credit card person. I'm a big cash person
Mhm.
just because I can control it. And with Digit and Acorn, I mean, talk about an opportunity for your high schooler or junior higher who's going to be going and buying a Slurpee or getting a hot dog with some friends or going out for
Mhm.
pizza. They can stack a future so they can go buy with a friend, a family member, a spouse, a significant
Mhm.
other, with this cash set aside for them. So I think it's
Right.
very important. So we are pretty much out of time here.
Right.
Give me a couple of takeaways. Give me 3 takeaways very, very quickly in regards to, and I'll give you mine as
Yeah.
well. Kind of how would you start this process of potentially buying with buying or selling or
Right.
investing with loved ones?
Okay, quick takeaways, and then I gotta tell you my story to my Valentine's story. But okay,
Oh, yes, yes,
quick
yes.
takeaway really is that I want you to try to think outside the box as far as your living situation. That is the main takeaway from today. Live outside the box a little bit. You need to think. It doesn't have to tradition. If you're sitting on Valentine's Day today and you're single and you're alone, you could spend the day being sad and being alone, or
Why?
think outside the box and think, you know what? Maybe you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Okay. Maybe that you're not supposed to buy a house with the spouse. You're supposed to buy a house with a sister or a best friend or your mom and dad or your kids, but it's about thinking strategically about what you could do with what you have available to you. So if you do want to explore any of those kind of things, I would love to talk to you anytime. If you're wanting to explore any of the stuff we talked about today or just how that would look for you. If you even have a dream in your heart, this is the place to start.
Okay. I actually that's a
And I think that
phenomenal
works.
takeaway. I love that takeaway. I guess the number one thing I would think about is don't be like Greg. All right. Number one. I want you guys to, honestly, I had a friend of mine. We went to an event and I heard about Acorn for the first time. This is probably 8 years ago.
Mhm.
Never took action.
Yeah,
Not once. Not once. Imagine the amount of money I could have saved up and invested and squirreled away in 8 years. Not even a decade, 8 years, right?
it
Eight,
adds
nine
up.
years.
Oh,
And it'd be easy 5, almost 6 figures, right?
easy.
Now, how dumb do you have to be not to do this?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you're dumb. I'm
Mm,
talking about myself. How dumb
yeah.
could I be for not doing this? So
Setting
I
it
would
up.
start doing Digit. You know what? I'm going to sign up for Acorn today. Fuck it. I'm done with this bullshit.
Let
I'm
me
not going
send you
to.
a link. I can make like $2 or something. I'll send you a link for that.
Okay, cool. I like giving you money.
We'll
Also, I
put a
want you
link in
to.
the comments so I can make more money off of you guys. No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
and she's not kidding.
No.
But I also want you guys to also think about like financial independence so that you have the ability to invest your capital into an asset that will give you a return.
Hmm.
Maybe not tomorrow, but it is real estate. It's not meant to be for tomorrow. It's a longer hold term product. But think about it a little bit. Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Do you want to have an account with Acorn or Digit or, just in your personal account? Do you want to have a safe full of pennies? I mean, what do you want that's going to give you something that you can use to benefit your life? Doesn't matter what it is, man. Squirrel away Oreo cookies. I don't care. If that makes you happy and that's going to be a value add asset that you can resell and make money off of, go for it. Do
Right.
it. Do something.
Right.
Like I'm taking action today. I'll guarantee you next week on this podcast, we're going to shift our time into a later time frame coming week. We are now going to be shooting at 3 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Central, and 5 o'clock Eastern. So hopefully it'll be a little bit more attainable for you guys to listen and watch on the live shows. But that's just something we're shifting because we see how the world is changing. So watch how the world is changing financially and see who you can buy with that might make sense for an investment. So that's kind of my takeaways. Alyssa, where can people follow you and get involved in your environment, my friend?
Okay, I'm going to tell you all that in a second, but I'm going to tell you my real fast story for what I did
Oh,
for my
yes, yes,
Valentine's.
yes.
It's important only because there's somebody out there right now that's like, has the excuse in their head that they just don't have any money right now, that they simply cannot buy their girlfriend or boyfriend a Valentine's Day gift because they don't have any money right now. And I just
Oh,
want to encourage you and inspire you that it doesn't have to be about money. It's about how you make it, the experience you created. So this is what happened with me. The guy that I've been dating speaks all over the country. So he was landing in Chicago last night. So I get a text at 4:30 of pictures from the airplane of Chicago. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's Valentine's Day tomorrow. Oh my gosh. What am I going to do? He's in Chicago. Like, I don't even know where. So I texted him and said, where are they putting you up at? Is it a Hampton Inn, a Hyatt? He writes back Hilton. I'm like, Hilton. He's like, yeah, it's in a little town,
of,
like in,
of
wow.
course he would stay in the Hilton.
Right. And he says this little town in Illinois that's just outside of Chicago. So I
Wait,
go immediately,
what's the name of this city?
little Addison. It's called Addison.
Oh, I have a funny story about that. But I'll tell you off air about this. That
Okay.
you'll laugh your butt off.
Okay. So he tells me I'm going to Addison. So this is at 4:30. He's going to be arriving at the hotel at 5 because they're getting ready to land. So I hang up, and so I go searching and I find the Hilton in Addison. Okay. And I'm like, this has got to be it. So I pick up the phone, I call him, and I get this girl who answers the phone named Pauline. And I said, Pauline, how old are you? She said, I'm 21. I said, can you do me a huge favor? Girl to girl here. I got my guy. He's going to be arriving there soon. His name is da 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 da. And she looks him up as she's talking. She goes, okay, I see him. Yep, I see his room. Okay. I'm not there. And I need his Valentine's Day to be really special. So what can we do? We've got to put together, do you have a basket? And this is like a Hilton airport, small town, not much there, right? She's like, I don't know, ma'am. We really don't have anything that you can buy. We have packages if you want to call back during the week. I go, no. Listen, Pauline, you're 21. You gotta be with me, girl. I need you right now. She goes, you know what? Say less. Say less. I got you. I got you. Next thing you know, me and Pauline, she's texting me personally, going, what do you think of this? I could put some Snickers in there. We could put some Coke. So she builds this basket, right, for him. And right. And then she texts me and says, I'm gonna make a Valentine's Day card. So she makes him this big Valentine's Day card, puts it in the basket and everything. It's sitting up on the lobby, thing. And he's coming in to check in. She said, he just checked in. We got it just in time. And we snuck it underneath his nose and ran it up to the room. So when he walks into the room, it's going to be there. So she's telling me all this. So he gets up there into the room and he immediately texts me and says, did you send me something? And I said, yeah, And so, of course, he sends me pictures of it, of him holding different things. And I said, yeah, it was this Pauline down in the lobby and stuff. He's like, I'll call you back. So he had to go down and get pictures with Pauline, And so they're sending me pictures last night. And we just made it was so funny because he said he walked into the hotel and he saw the basket sitting up there on the lobby. And he thought, that's nice. Well, that's a nice thing for someone. And then next thing you know, he goes into his room and checks in and he opens the door and it's sitting right there, the same exact basket. He thought they were like going to everybody in the hotel or something. It wasn't just, and he's like, there's the same basket is in my room. And so anyway, they ran it up, in the midst of him checking in and stuff. And, so it didn't cost me more than $40, but, boy, Pauline wrote me last night and said, you know what's so funny? I need help with my credit. And I'm like, okay.
Are you serious?
No, she was adorable. She literally wrote me in all caps last night because I, of course, made a whole video, about it. And that was part of like sealing the whole experience. I put the whole video together from the texts of him landing in Chicago and me calling Pauline. And I just kind of unfolded this story. I sent it to her and she's like, you two totally made my Valentine's Day. It was so neat to meet you guys. And it was just it was a fun memory. Like no matter what, it'll be something we'll look back and laugh on. And it's, it was Coke and Snickers and treats and things for him. Some hot tea I had her put in there. I'm like, you have a newspaper, but anything she could do. Just don't forget, there's nothing better than walking into a hotel room on Valentine's Day by yourself and having somebody who's already thought about you, something waiting for you, makes you feel a little special, Anyway, it doesn't have to be much, just something that makes somebody feel like they got thought about.
Just something heartfelt, that would
Yeah.
make the other person feel good. And you know what? That goes back to, buying and selling with friends or family. I mean, doing something heartfelt, doing something that's
Mhm.
helpful. Not the same story, but I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about when's the last time you've ever had someone, a friend or a family member, do something like when you have to make that call, that hard call, be like, bro, like, I'm embarrassed to do this, but I need help. Right.
Mhm.
And the other person's like, cool. What do you need?
Right.
I had a individual in my life. I'm not going to disclose who this individual is. They called me up and said, I need $16,000 or I'm losing the house. I had just made, I had just hit a net worth of $25,000 after being 100% broke. I said, what bank am I dropping it off to?
Yeah.
Never expected to see that back, but it changed that individual's life.
Oh,
And I got my money back, by the way, plus interest.
yeah.
Uh, but that's the thing. It's doing
Yeah.
things that people don't expect you to do.
Mhm.
And if a friend goes, hey, man, I need a place to live. You're like, cool, me too. Let's buy a fucking house together. What?
Let's solve our problems together, okay? Because we're not getting any younger.
Let's do a dumpster fire in one household. Phenomenal. But okay,
All right.
my last comments were majority jokes. Alyssa was obviously being very honest about the individual that she has the honor to be associated with, who, by the way, he's a very, very cool human. I really enjoy his company. And I want you guys to go out there and do one thing for me today. When you hear this, it could be on Valentine's Day. It could be after Valentine's Day. It could be next year, next month, next millennium. I don't care. I want you to tell somebody you love them.
I love you.
I love you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna cry now. All right, guys, we're gonna finish up the show. Go follow Alyssa on Color My Credit on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and everywhere else. Guys, follow our show as always. We love the comments, we love the interaction. So keep it coming, guys. Give us show ideas, give us guest ideas, help us grow this thing so that we can bring the most valuable content to you that you could possibly imagine. Because we want you guys to thrive and not just survive. All right, boys and girls, I love you to pieces. Until next time, peace out, ninjas. We're gone.